Have you ever felt like you're in a constant battle against chaos? You clean your desk and hours later it's a mess again? Well, guess what? You really are fighting that battle. In fact, all of life is. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most amazing paradoxes in all of science, this incredible clash between a fundamental law of the universe and the simple fact that we exist at all. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off and ask the big question right away. Does life, with all its structure, its growth, its complexity, actually defy the laws of physics? Because on the surface, it really looks like it does. Let's unpack why. Okay, so our story really starts with this massive conflict. You could almost call it a cosmic contradiction. On one side, you have the universe's #1 rule, and on the other, you have us, life itself. And right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. The universe, as a whole, is on a one-way street heading straight for disorder, for decay. Everything, and I mean everything, tends to break down over time. And yet, life does the complete opposite. It builds things up, it organizes, it creates this stunningly complex order from total simplicity. So, what gives?
To figure this out, we've got to first understand the universe's side of the story. And that means we need to get familiar with a little concept called entropy. You can basically think of it as the official law of disorder.
So what is entropy? Well, it's just a scientific way to measure messiness, or randomness, or chaos. And a super important rule in physics, the second law of thermodynamics, says that if you have a closed-off, isolated system, that messiness can only go in one direction, up. It always gets messier.
And you can see this in action really easily. Just picture a hot cup of tea. At first, all that heat energy is nice and orderly. It's concentrated right there in the cup. But the universe kind of hates that. That heat just has to spread out into the cooler room until eventually the tea and the room are the exact same temperature. That final lukewarm state, that's maximum entropy, maximum disorder.
And you see this literally everywhere. A building left alone doesn't fix itself, it crumbles. An ice cube in a warm room doesn't stay frozen, it melts into a puddle. And we all know this one, a clean room seems to get messy all by itself. It takes actual work to fight against this constant march toward messiness. That's entropy for you.
All right, so that's the rule. But that brings us to the most powerful counter-evidence you can imagine. The beautiful, seemingly impossible order that life creates. Yeah, if the universe is always supposed to be running down, always getting messier, then how on earth do you explain life? It feels like a cheat code, like something that's figured out how to run the cosmic clock backwards and actually reverse entropy.
I mean, think about it. A tiny little seed pulls in molecules and organizes them into a huge, complex tree. A single cell divides and grows and becomes a thinking, feeling human being. This is not a trend towards chaos. This is an absolutely mind-boggling increase in order and complexity. It feels like a total rebellion against that universal law we just talked about. So, there's our paradox. The universe demands decay, but life creates order. So how do we solve this? Well, it all hinges on one single, absolutely critical clue that unlocks this entire mystery. I mean, it's a pretty wild thought, right? Maybe we found it. The one case where a fundamental law of physics is just wrong. Or is there something we're missing here?
Okay, here's part one of that big clue. Remember when we were talking about entropy? The law very specifically says that it applies to an isolated system. Think of it like a perfectly sealed-off box. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. The universe as a whole, that's the ultimate isolated system.
And here it is, the big aha moment. Living things, like you and me, are not isolated systems, not even close. We are open systems. We are constantly exchanging energy and matter with everything around us. We eat, we breathe, we soak up sunlight. And that one tiny difference, well, it changes absolutely everything. So life doesn't actually break the law, it's just playing a different game. But there's always a catch, right? To create all of that incredible order inside itself, life has to pay a price. It has to pay its dues back to the universe.
It really all boils down to this cosmic transaction. For every little piece of beautiful, complex order that a living thing builds for itself, it has to export an even greater amount of disorder, of entropy, back out into its surroundings.
Let's just take a plant, for example. It takes in this very orderly, low-entropy energy in the form of sunlight. It then uses that to build highly ordered things, like leaves and stems. But as it does that, it releases a bunch of messy, disordered, high-entropy energy back out into the universe, mostly as waste heat. It buys its local order by creating even more disorders somewhere else.
And we do the exact same thing. We eat food, which is just ordered, low-entropy energy. We use that energy to build and maintain our incredibly complex bodies. But in the process, our bodies generate a ton of disordered heat and waste, and we release all of that back into the environment, increasing its overall entropy. Okay, let's zoom out now and look at the big picture, the universal balance sheet that shows us where life really fits into the cosmos.
I just think this is such a beautiful way to see it. Every single living thing, you, me, a tree, a bird, we are all just temporary little islands of incredible order. We exist for a little while, holding back the tide in this vast universal ocean that is constantly, unstoppably moving toward disorder.
And that's the final answer. The second law of thermodynamics is never, ever broken. If you zoom out and you look at the whole system, the organism plus its environment, the total amount of messiness, of entropy, always goes up. Life doesn't defy the law, it's one of the most brilliant examples of it in action. The cosmic books are always, always balanced.
So that leaves us with this final thought. Life isn't a violation of the rules. Not at all. But maybe it's the universe's most clever and beautiful loophole, a way for the cosmos to create these little pockets of breathtaking complexity, all while it continues its inevitable journey towards ultimate, simple chaos. What do you think?